Hi, my name is Lily Gregory, and this is my persuasive speech for Miss Dawson's public speaking class. If you were on the last months of your life, would you want to spend them in excruciating pain and unable to enjoy the simple things in life in fear that with months to come you'll have your life stripped from you? Thousands of people across the United States are dealing with just that. Physician-assisted suicide is legalized in only 3 states, and with years to come, legislation will be coming to the other 47, and we need people's support. Being 7 years old, I watched my mom get diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. She was unable to feed herself, bathe herself, and at points even breathe on her own. Knowing the type of person that my mom was, I know that that's not how she wanted to spend the last month of her life, but legally she had no other option. With patient testimonies and scholarly articles found in print and online from doctors, I've created facts on why you should support physician-assisted suicide and the Death with Dignity Act. The 3 main points that I'll be talking about today are that everyone has the right to die, the immorality of this forced pain and suffering on these terminally ill patients, and how death with dignity is not actually harming anyone. My first point is the right to die. According to deathwithdignity.org, this is an act that gives people a peaceful end of life, rather than spending their last months of their life and their last memories being in pain and suffering. In a court case in 1997, Washington versus Glucksberg ruled that people have the right to die just as they have the right to live. Dr. Batten says that if people have the right to refuse treatment that could save their life, why can't they have treatment that will end their pain and suffering? Now, this isn't just an act that gives free range to anyone to opt out with physician-assisted suicide. There are strict guidelines as this is a law. One being that it has to be within 6 months of when your end of life is coming. Since we talked about the right to die, now let's talk about the immorality of forcing these terminally ill patients to go through this pain and suffering. Stephen Doyle, an advocate with deathwithdignity.org, explained how inhumane it is to force these patients in hospital rooms to go through this pain and suffering, rather than spending their last days doing things they love and enjoy. He knows because he went through just that, going through chemo and radiation for his cancer, knowing that he was going to die. He had to spend his last months spent in a hospital room, keeping breathing tubes and IVs keeping him alive, and his family rarely able to visit him because he was in such critical condition. Once he decided to get off of chemo and radiation treatments, he was able to spend his last months doing the things that he loved with his family. It's called Death with Dignity for a reason. In these last months where these patients have no choice in whether they're going to live or die, at least they have a choice in when, where, and how they die. In a time where it feels you've lost all of your dignity, this act gives dignity back to these patients. Glenn Church, also an advocate with Death with Dignity, says, "Death with dignity is about choice. Just as no one should be able to tell you how to live your life, no one should be able to tell you how to end your life either." Now that we've talked about how inhumane it is to force this pain and suffering, let's talk about how death with dignity doesn't actually harm anyone. Since legalization of death with dignity in the Netherlands, there's actually been a decrease by 10% in the last 10 years, says Dr. Guy with the National Institute of Health. As the laws were adjusted and people were informed on physician-assisted suicide, the number did dramatically decrease. If it's legalized, it also does not mean you have to do it. Dr. Macaulay says that it isn't a process to force it. It's just for qualifying patients to end their suffering. And this isn't an act made to harm anyone. It's actually made for the exact opposite. It offers a painless and quick end of life to these patients. Just as being a 7-year-old and wishing that there was a way to end my mom's pain and suffering, there are thousands of people pleading for the same exact thing. Stand with Death with Dignity.